Welcome to Getting to Know You, and we usually add Getting to Know You staff and residents. And we have planned 2 programs in order for you to get to know residents, specifically the nominees to the Executive Committee of the Residents Association. Many of you have read about them in the weekly bulletin. You may have seen their biographies. One sheet was put in your box. You may have seen them stand up at the Resident Association's meeting, but we would like to give you a chance to get to know them by hearing them talk about who they are and what they would like to do in serving on the Residents Association Executive Committee. So there are a total of 7 people who have been nominated to serve in various positions, and that's going to take us 2 segments of Getting to Know You for you to meet each of those people. We will start with Barbara Purnell, who was the chair of the nominating committee, so you have some idea of how they were chosen and how that worked. And then we will go through the officers and then the members of the 2 new members of the executive committee. So I hope you enjoy meeting them. Each one is a brief conversation and asking a question of what do they bring to this office and what would they like to see happen to participate in the activities of the Resident Association. I guess it's important to say that there also is an opportunity for people to be nominated by petition. And the actual election of the candidates will be at the May Resident Association meeting. In the meantime, if there are people who want to put their name forward, they can have a petition of 10 signatures brought to the nominating committee chair, Barbara Purnell, and they will be put on the, in effect, ballot for that meeting. So this is an open invitation, of course, but we also hope that this is an open invitation to you to get to know the candidates and then work with them, because the Resident Association is all of us. You will hear the person nominated to be the new president say that one of the wonderful things about the Resident Association is that we're all members of the association. So I hope you enjoy meeting the people who have been nominated to take on the leadership role, and we'll think about what you would like to see them do, and that you will communicate with the new officers when we decide who they are in May. So listen in now for 2 segments about these people who have been nominated. As you know, we're going to be interviewing the candidates for the Resident Association Executive Committee. Before we do that, though, it seemed to be a good idea to speak to the nominating committee chair, and hear a little bit about that process. And so Barbara Purnell, welcome. And so you chaired the committee, and it was the first of a 2-year term.
Yes.
And this is all specified in the bylaws.
It is.
So, okay. So then you had a committee. Can you tell us about the committee briefly, and then the process?
Well, the committee consisted of Rosalie Berger, David Drake, and Ruth Laux, and they are on staggered 3-year terms. And we started meeting in late December, January, and we had a number of positions to fill, so I thought it was going to take a while.
Right.
In reality, we had great success. I mean, we discussed as a committee potential names for each of the positions, and a few people had made suggestions, but I can't say there was a lot of input in that direction, but we wanted to make sure that we had a fair selection of both men and women, and some fresh ideas possibly. We were very successful in our asks.
When you asked, people said
Yes,
yes.
yes, they did.
Uh-huh.
There might have been one or two that did not, but it went much more quickly than I thought it would, and we were very happy with the results, and I hope that everyone living here at Stonebridge is as well. I think it'll be a good team.
Well, one of the things, I don't know if you did it on purpose, but you mentioned that you had male-female balance. But as I looked over the list, I saw you also had what I call neighborhood balance. You had an officer from Smalley, an officer from Valentine, and then you have 2 people on the East Corridor and 2 people on the West Corridor.
Well, I have to say, it had ended up working out that way, but it wasn't totally planned, but yeah, I mean, that was
I
part
think
of
it
the
works well
conversation.
for Stonebridge, because we
Yeah.
all know that we get to see certain people because of where we live.
Right.
And so to have that kind of balance, it seems
Right.
to me, I'm glad that it worked out, and that you had people who were willing to serve, because that
Yes.
says something for
Yes.
the organization.
Yes,
And it made your job easier. I know you've had a lot of experience working on boards, and probably have been on nominating committees before.
yes,
But,
but yeah, I mean, this went much quicker, and, you know, we were very pleased with.
Now, has
How it-
a new member of the nominating committee been recommended at this time? Because I think
No.
Rosalie Berger has served for 3
Yes.
years, so.
No,
That'll
but
come
I
later?
think, yes,
Mhm.
yeah, I
Mhm.
think that will come with the new board.
And then you'll be chairing for 1 more year.
Yes.
You have
Right.
experience.
Yeah. Well, that should be easier because,
Mhm.
you know, almost all but one position
Mhm.
was filled
Right.
this year, so
Okay.
it'll
Well,
be.
well, thank you for making it possible. You need a
Well-
nominating committee in order
well,
to have organizations work.
It was
so-
my pleasure, it really was a good experience.
Well, thanks a lot. Thanks for this
Yep.
introduction.
Oh, you're welcome.
This time I'm going to be speaking with Julia Cole. And Julia, you might be well known, but people don't maybe know that you have been nominated to serve as president of the Residents Association after having served as the vice president. And you'll have to tell me how many years. Was that 2 or 4? or-
I've been on the committee 4 years. I was at large, and then I was the secretary for a year, and then I became vice president.
Now, people know that there have been bios out there, people stood up at the Resident Association meeting, but they haven't really heard from the candidates themselves. They have heard from you with numerous introductions to the program committee.
That's right.
But I think this is an opportunity for you to very briefly tell us sort of what are you bringing to this role from your background before you were at Stonebridge? How do you see that?
Well, I've always been a volunteer. My father was a great volunteer in Princeton, and so I knew everything about what was going on in town. So, and I always, when I moved back to Princeton in 1980, I did the same thing, followed in his footsteps, and it was great. And then after I retired from my law practice, I was lucky enough to have a very good friend,
There's a
Claire
little noise in the background,
Oh, okay.
but that's what happens when you're taping.
And my friend Claire Jacobus, who was sort of head of everything, brought me in and got me involved in the Friends of the Princeton Public Library, and then I was the chairman of that group. And then I was in Community Without Walls, which was a group of older people to organize and provide help and support to each other, and I was the head of that group. And then I was in the Old Guard, and I became president of the Old Guard. And then when I came here, David Mulford said, well, what we really need is somebody on the program committee.
Right.
So I've been on the program committee ever
All
since.
those contacts came in very handy.
And chairing that. So the thing that I think is so great about the Residents Association is that everybody is a member who is a resident here. And it's really our way for the residents to organize, which we have. We have a lot of committees, as we all know about, hopefully. And we also have task forces, so that if something bubbles up that we want to do that isn't, going to last for years, we can organize a task force and deal with that issue, or with a particular event or activity or something like that. And it seems to me that during COVID, when we were locked up and then we had to find ways to get together on our own, which I think was really quite a good experiment. And we had Robin and Brooke and now Katie. And Robin, of course, was very creative in getting us together. And we've got so many activities and so many ways to be together. And that's really what the Residents Association is about. How do we really foster our community and have people be friendly and mix together in different groupings from what they may do every day to enjoy each other, get to know more people, and the support that's available here is just tremendous.
So I'm hearing you say that you have good experience in the Resident Association, but you see promise ahead for all kinds of things that we can come together and do. And
right, we have to keep the bubbling up. I think we've got a pretty dynamic group of people, and that everybody here is educated, has done things, likes to do things, knows what they want. And that really distinguishes us from a nursing home kind of a thing where it's all top down. And we're really trying to do a bottom up as well as top down. And I was so happy last year to read about the Live Well program that Spring Point has. And it does say that they want, it's sort of half and half, that they want the residents to be active in coming up with their own activities and things that they want to do and organizing. And I think that's great.
Yeah, we need the support of the administration to do that.
Yes.
But it also won't work if people aren't engaged, who are the members of the Residents.
Yeah, if it's just, you're just passive rather than knowing you can be active.
Okay, well, we look forward to you being the leader in that effort and to build on the past and get us all together in new ways we can't even imagine now.
I can't either. Thank you very much for doing this. Thank you.
I'm very glad to be talking with Carol Besky, known as CB. I knew her as Mayor Carol Besky, so it's a little hard for me to get to that CB, but I'm glad to be interviewing you as CB Besky, as you are a nominee for Vice President of the Resident Association Executive Committee. And as you know, each of the candidates is answering 2 questions, so that there's some kind of commonality here. So rather than going over what you've already submitted in your bio that's in everybody's box, let me ask you to think about this responsibility and tell us a little bit about your experience from your before Stonebridge that you think might be helpful to the Residents Association.
Okay, good question.
To this job.
And by the way, Ingrid, CB or Carol, I answered either,
I
so
know
no
you-
one
I-
has
I
to
know
worry
you
about
do,
that. But I think that's a message also to the residents, because some people, I think I've confused a few people, but CB, Carol, doesn't matter. And in terms of my past experience, probably, well, there's several things, but certainly my life as mayor, working with the town, working with the residents, working, answering to the community is certainly a role that is perfect for going into something like this, as well as I did start an engineering firm and ran it for almost 30 years, and certainly doing that kind of business development and all the things that go with running a successful business, I think certainly helped me qualify for what I'm going to be doing here.
Right. I guess we have to remember that we are a part of something that is a business, so having that orientation is probably a good reality check.
No, I think it really is, because this is a business here, and in many ways, any organization that you run is really should be run like a business, and so I think that's really something to very much keep in mind.
Right. So now you've been here 2 years?
About a year and a half.
About a year and a half, okay. So that's have some good new faces and voices. But you've been involved in a lot of things, and as you think about the Resident Association doing either new things or continuing things that we're familiar with, what really interests you? What would you like to be doing here on the committee?
Well, I think when Jeff asked me to head up the building committee, to me that was a real opportunity, because I think there's so many things that the building committee can be looking at and kind of advising toward that just are very important to the residents. I mean, for example, one of the things that I'm really focused on is the whole communication aspect. And last year when it was last year now, when Ida hit and people were wondering what to do with a tornado warning and what, how they're going to be communicated to, and along with fire and how do the emergency services work. So we're moving forward with promoting those kinds of communications with the residents, and I think that's great. And the other thing is, in my my engineering world, infrastructure, sewer, roads, gardens, planning.
You know the value of those.
Right. So it really is kind of a natural, and certainly, I totally understand the role of the residents committees, and we aren't in charge of anything, but we certainly, fortunately, we have an administration that really is listening, and I'm really excited because I think that there's some good things that they're definitely going to be, that we're going to put forward.
Right. So the resident association as sort of listening, not to complaints, but problems or misunderstandings, and trying to interpret those back to the administration, as well as the residents. It's sort of one way this way and the other way that way. Would you say that sort of...
Exactly. That's why I went, with the question, to me, communications. Communications in both directions, because we have such a rollover of residents, probably not the right word, but but with all the new residents coming in constantly, I think it's really important to not lose sight of the fact that yes, maybe we knew this 2 years ago, but there are probably 50 or more new residents that have never really had an opportunity to learn those things. I was kind of in that category because I moved in the middle of COVID, and it took me quite some time, and thank God for Bocce, because that was how I finally got to meet people. And it's great because, again, I would encourage every resident that can move, that do so, to really get involved with some of our extracurricular activities, because that's a great way to meet people.
Thank you so much, and we look forward to working with you. But first, we have to elect you, or all show up in May.
Thank you.
Make our decisions known. How's that? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, CP.